Nikki Barua, what's your superpower and how does that serve your mission to help others?
Curiosity. Curiosity is definitely my superpower. I've been insatiably curious since I was a little girl, and it still serves me well because it doesn't matter what's happening in the world and doesn't matter what I know or don't know. My curiosity has led me to learn new things, unlearn the old things, and find a way to the future.
Very good. Flywheel leadership is about discovering and practicing the leadership systems that bring out the best in each of us and our teams. What's a story from your experience that comes to mind that exemplifies exceptional or unique styles in leadership?
That's a great question. To me, one of the most powerful stories is actually a personal one, and it's what I observed my mom doing as a leader in her community, in her business. And I was very fortunate to get a front row seat to that growing up. She was, she was a woman who grew up in the, who was an entrepreneur in the 60s, and a time in India where very few women had careers, let alone were business owners and bold entrepreneurs. But she built a business that was totally purpose-driven, and her goal was to empower other women and help them gain financial independence and, most importantly, self-worth. And she designed her entire business on achieving that mission that created lots of jobs, but more importantly, created a lot of confident, capable women leaders. And to me, what that exemplifies is the greatest act of leadership is unlocking potential in others.
So cool. What kind of business was it?
She started off in education and diversified into many other things from there. But one of the best pieces of the story is that even after 45 years of running a business, no one resigned from her team. They eventually retired, but nobody left her side. And they all, even the person that she had first hired 45 years ago, went on to become the CEO of one of her companies. And so it's incredible just to see what is possible when you just believe in someone and help them find their way.
Certainly. That is incredible. Thank you for sharing. You mentioned the exponential divide between AI capabilities and human readiness. Nikki, could you walk us through what that means to you and why that's important?
Yeah, look, technology has always disrupted the current way of life. And that's been true forever, from the time electricity was discovered, the industrial age, or the internet. Each time there's been a new kind of technology, it has sort of destroyed the old way, but it's created a better way for the future. A lot more jobs, a lot more opportunity. But during that time of disruption, there's pain, because it changes the way that people are used to, and there's short-term losses, and eventually people get used to the new way and they adapt to that. What's different about AI, though, is the speed and scale at which AI is gaining mass adoption. The internet took almost 30 years for mass adoption. Mobile technology took 10, 20 years. AI is happening in less than 3 years. And that speed is almost near impossible for human beings to adapt to. So while AI continues to self-improve, not only, get higher adoption rates, but it's continuously improving its intelligence and its capabilities, while people are still adopting, moving in a linear way, while the technology is expanding in an exponential way. And that's the divide, where AI is speeding ahead and people are getting left behind. And unless we can figure out as leaders how to close this gap, you're going to have people that are ill-prepared for the reality of, the world of work and what happens to their careers and their income.
Could you walk us through FlipWork and what you do with your clients, like how you engage and serve them and really help them to the outcomes that they seek?
Yeah, simply put, our goal is to help organizations close that exponential divide for their people, right? So any organization, they're used to doing work the old way, and it used to be slower and used to be a lot more manual than it will be in the future. And people, and most importantly, the mindset and habits that people have while they're doing their jobs, they're hardwired because we're used to doing, anyone who's done that same kind of work, if you're in marketing or in sales, you've been used to doing things a certain way that made you successful. That's your formula. And what needs to happen now is requires us to unlearn that same success formula and figure out a whole new way of thinking, of leading, of working with AI at the center. And that's what FlipWork helps companies do, is that we are not just helping them embrace AI or learn AI tools and training. We're actually rewiring how their people think, how their teams work, how their culture operates, how their business process and workflows are, redesigned with AI as a, co-worker in the center. And that's what helps them not only gain a strategic advantage, but they start operating a lot faster. And their people become what I call people squared. Instead of fearing AI, they go from people scared to people squared, where they become exponentially more capable because now it's humans plus machines doing the work instead of just a human alone.
So how do you shift that mindset? Meaning, so how do you get a company, a CEO, their team to put aside the fear, the uncertainty, just the lack of knowledge, like at the really early stages? Like, how do you get that kind of just out on the table, put that aside, this is how we're going to approach this? Or how do you get to shift that mindset?
Yeah, that's really one of the biggest challenges that companies face and leaders and CEOs particularly face, because how do you get a whole company and every single person in it to stop fearing for job loss and actually be willing to unlearn and then learn new ways? And what we have developed is a new kind of change management method, because the old way used to be outsiders coming in and telling you, hey, you're doing your job wrong. I'm going to tell you how to do it right. And here's a training and figure it out. And if you don't do it, you're out. The approach we're taking is one of self-empowerment. We are creating an environment, a safe space in 90-day sprints. We bring teams together in a safe space where they are able to experiment with what their work could look like, or who they can become, and the skills that they can learn, and the new ways that they can master. But we give them the tools for them to discover themselves. So it becomes like this playground where instead of feeling threatened or feeling undermined by somebody telling them they can do their jobs, it becomes a playground where they figure out the right answer themselves, and they're able to test it in an environment where it's sort of failure proof, where there's, they're not going to lose their jobs or get reprimanded for doing something wrong, but they get to test, learn, and design it themselves. And what happens as a result is that you adopt an innovator's mindset. You become a scientist that's figuring this out, and that empowerment is what causes them to not only, change, let go of the old way, because now they can see themselves in the future. Instead of feeling like something is replacing them, they see AI as something amplifying what makes them special. And they can see how much more they can achieve, and they can see that this is not just a one-time, exercise, that this is a continuous reinvention method. So by unlocking their attitudes towards innovation, towards continuous learning and innovation, we are giving them the tools and the environment, and then they figure it out themselves. And the results we've seen in just 90 days, we get 85% plus transformation in 90-day cycles.
So this is really important for leaders that are looking to take on this challenge, which, a lot of people would say is all leaders right now, or, a very high percentage, or if it's not today, it will be tomorrow, right? So,
exactly. I mean, whether a leader or an organization is ready or not, AI is not waiting for that, right? It's speeding along. It's a matter of how much distance do you want to put between where you are and where AI is going to be. The longer you wait, the distance gets bigger.
these are real tools that people can use from what you're talking about, just that approach to actually using the AI tools. Nikki, once let's say a leader embraces this style of just adoption and just that mindset across the company, how do they turn that into tangible outcomes, like where it's actually leading from play or experimentation to actual business outcomes? How does that shift?
Right. So the first thing we do before they even embark on the 90-day sprint is we start with a diagnostic that is company-wide. And what that diagnostic reveals is where's the highest ROI opportunity for AI to change the business and to unlock either revenue growth or profit growth or speed or efficiency, whatever those key metrics are. We work with their executive team to identify what's the most important objective for the business right now. Do you want faster product innovation? Do you need more efficiency and profit? Or do you need greater market share and revenue growth? Based on that, the diagnostic then identifies the right opportunity areas and the exact places where the ROI is going to be highest and fastest. And so effectively, instead of just randomly going in and trying to change things up and driving transformation projects, this helps you pinpoint exactly where to start. It sort of gives you this map and a really dynamic roadmap to figure out, start here, but do this next, and then do this next. So it gives them a clear plan. From that, we start with a 90-day pilot in the high priority area. And through that experimentation process, what's also happening during the 90-day cycle is we are designing the workflows in that area. So let's say they find that, sales is the highest opportunity for this particular company. They're going to redesign the entire sales workflow, embrace all of the AI-driven sales tools, but also rewire the mindset of the sales team so that they start thinking and working differently, most importantly, in how they allocate their time. The biggest decision that leaders have to make at that point is we find on average it releases about somewhere between 30 to 40% of total capacity in just 90 days. The question is, if you've got 40% extra capacity with the same exact headcount, where are you going to reallocate that? Because that has to be a very intentional and strategic decision. Do you want to reallocate that to take on more, to do more work that you couldn't do before without hiring more people? Or do you want to reallocate that for some kind of new innovation that you weren't able to do in the past? So that sort of, reallocation is where the impact starts to, become exponential beyond just the basic efficiencies and speed and all of that. In general, we're finding that the investment that they make, it's roughly around 8 to 10x return, within a 12-month period, which is pretty significant. So the point is, this is designed in a way where it's almost self-funding. Everything that you invest, you're releasing so much value out of that you can reinvest over and over again to find new efficiencies.
So when it comes to what you hear out in the market, you hear so much talk about AI, just like we all do. And you have your own experience and what you've learned over the last few years. What is kind of the biggest thing that comes to mind that you see as maybe inaccurate, or maybe you have a controversial take on that's different than what is commonly just touted out in the market? Anything that comes to mind that is a different way of looking at AI?
Yeah, well, I think there's sort of two emerging schools of thought, and we've seen over the past few weeks in particular how the stock market has been, plunging widely on just Substack essays that are causing it to, tank, and various sectors getting affected by that. And the two opposing points of view is, one is a very pessimistic view that's totally doomsday prophecy that, it's going to take away all the jobs. Everyone's going to be unemployed and AI is going to be our Lord and master. And the opposing point of view to that is a highly optimistic one, that it's going to be total abundance and prosperity and we'll never need to work, but all our needs will be paid for and we can become poets and philosophers and painters, right? My take on that is both can be true. What is likely to happen is an extended period of uncertainty and volatility. Eventually, I do believe I'm more on the optimist side. I do believe that really long term that we will see tremendous abundance and prosperity, not just because of higher productivity and GDP growth, but also because AI will give us the ability to solve humanity's greatest challenges, whether it is, curing cancer or solving for, education in other ways, or the climate, so we will have the tools to solve the things that we haven't been able to solve, but it will also have greater abundance long term. What we cannot escape, though, is to get to that incredible, prosperous future, we are going to have to go through pain in the short term. And the question really is whether the policies are put in place to balance against the pain that is inevitably going to occur, right? When I think back to the COVID times, right, there was a lot of pain, but there were policies that kind of, helped us navigate that as a society. And something similar, hopefully, is put in place. That's the piece that, to me, is the uncertain phase that we'll have to go to. Will the policies happen in time, or will they be too late where the pain and destruction extends more than we need to?
Certainly. Nikki, when it comes to that short term, let's talk for a second to the everyday professional, right? They don't own a business. Maybe they have a team they lead in some way, or they're looking to become a leader. What do you see as how they can best handle the short-term pain, getting through that and being able to self-enable, develop themselves, however you want to put it, to weather that kind of short-term pain storm, right?
Yeah. First off, philosophically, I think, what's important for everyone right now to bear in mind is nobody can predict what's going to happen. I mean, even the people leading the AI labs that are building the best models are unsure what's going to ultimately happen. And like I said, there's two schools of thought, one which is highly pessimistic, one which is highly optimistic. My advice is prepare for both scenarios. Have like a dual edge resilience, built in, so it doesn't matter how it maps out, you're able to navigate it. Prepare yourself for that. And the way to do that and to think through this for yourself instead of just taking someone else's word for it is to ask, the right questions. And the questions I would ask is, number one, is your income tied to something that AI will eventually do? So if you are a lawyer and the nature of your work is something that AI, the next advanced AI model can easily do, well, you just ended up without a job or market value, at least. If you're a financial analyst that is building models, well, Claude can already do that, right? So evaluate how much of your income or what portion of your overall job is tied to things that AI will displace. If not now, it will eventually displace. And if that is the case, really start figuring out how you can get to higher value, capability and competency that is irreplaceable. And those are the innately human traits, the things that require things like relationships or judgment or wisdom or perspective. Build those or seek out those opportunities now. Don't wait to be completely displaced and become irrelevant before you start thinking about that. Question number two is, are you in an industry or working in a company that is at a risk or has been successful in business simply because you have customers locked down? Like people that can't get out of contracts. That's why they keep paying your company that. Or it's because there's no better solution, so they're stuck because the friction keeps them stuck. And that's why we're seeing a lot of software stocks and software companies impacted, because what made them successful was that sort of customer lock-in. And if you are working at a company like that or in an industry where that is the case, again, start taking stock of how you move towards something that truly creates long-term value. And question number three, and this is the most, it's the most personal one, is, how much resilience do you have in your personal finances? Are you going to be able to handle let's say 24 months where your income is disrupted. And if you are not there, prepare for it. Don't wait for that to happen and expect policies to take care of it. So I think that's the last piece, is really hunker down and make sure you have the resources to ride out a tough period, should we be in that. I'm not saying that's the prediction, but the point is prepare for the worst case and prepare for the best case.
What's the most fulfilling aspect of your work?
The most resilient aspect? Fulfilling aspect. The most fulfilling aspect has always been the same thing, is developing people. To me, the best part of being a leader, whether it was as a corporate executive or as an entrepreneur, it's creating jobs, bringing the right people in the right roles, and then making them great and helping them become great. And that seeing that talent potential unlocked is truly the most joyful thing in everything I do.
That's very, very cool. Love to hear that. What's one thing you've changed your mind on over the span of your life or career?
I think I did not fully recognize or embrace how much of a role unlearning actually plays in success. I was always focused on learning, and I valued a learner's continuous learning mindset in myself and in other people. But what I've come to discover, and I've changed my mind around, is unlearning is actually the power tool. Because you can add on layers and layers of what you know and knowledge and experience and competency, but unless you let go, and letting go is what helps you shift identity. Unless you truly let go, that next version of you, that next level of success and competency does not emerge.
I think that is so important and doesn't get talked about enough. And however it's referenced or shared, in that it is okay to change your mind, and it is okay to realize that preconceived notion or that concept that you held so tightly for so long was either wrong, or it's just evolved, and you've learned that there is a different way to look at it. I feel like that is one thing that is just so powerful, that
it really is. And I also see it as a sign of intelligence now. I used to see it as if people are changing their mind and they lack conviction, but that's actually not true. It means that they're getting new information that they're then evaluating. The facts have changed, or their awareness has changed around something, and they're making new decisions. And that's powerful, because in a world that's changing fast, if your viewpoints are so rigid that they don't change over decades, that's dangerous.
Certainly. In leaders that you see throughout your career and the clients you work with today, the ones that struggle the most, especially during times like these, what causes them to fail?
Indecision and inertia. And I'm seeing this even right now. It's so clear what needs to happen, which is move in the direction of this, of where the tsunami is inevitably going to hit everyone. So in times like that, if you're waiting for perfect information or you're waiting for more certainty, you're gonna get left behind. And I feel like leaders that are used to slow, deliberate decision-making with more information and really optimizing for reducing risk are actually going to find themselves struggle in this environment, because everything that this requires is walking into uncertainty, walking into the unknown, operating with the risk and moving fast. And to me, it's the indecision gap that is going to hurt leaders.
Nikki, what's one thing that we should have talked about that we haven't covered yet? Anything come to mind?
I think we've covered a lot of ground. I would say, the one thing I'd leave everyone with is it's an incredible time to be alive. We're witnessing something that, is happening in our generation, in our lifetime. And yes, there's going to be lots of uncertainty, lots of risk, and possibly a lot of pain. But it also opens up the opportunity for every single person and every organization to truly reinvent and become something that was never possible before. We have access to infinite intelligence, and the cost of execution has gone down to near zero. And what that means is you can create anything you want. The only thing holding you back is your imagination to envision something others cannot see, and your bravery to bring that vision to life. That's it. So I hope people are excited about what's possible and leap into this future.
Thank you for that high note on the end with where we're at. I do think there's just so much focus on whether it's the change, the doomsday, the wild future that could be coming. It's also great to, thanks for pulling it back to the present and what is important to focus on for so many. So before we wrap, what do you want those you've worked with to say about your impact on them?
I hope I help them discover the extraordinary person that they are, that they never saw before.
That's great. How can listeners best find you and follow your mission?
Well, one, I'd invite people to subscribe to my newsletter. It's called Reinvention Roadmap, where every week I share not just trends and insights on what's happening in the world of work, but also actionable strategies that they can apply right away. You can find that on my personal website at nikkibarua.com and subscribe to the newsletter Reinvention Roadmap. For leaders that are interested in learning more about AI transformation that FlipWork does, go to flipwork.ai. And of course, I'd welcome anyone to connect with me on LinkedIn.
Very good. Nikki Barua, FlipWork, thank you for sharing today. We appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. I was so thrilled to be here.
Great meeting you. Thank you.